We are Gold Ivy, a health company dedicated to simplifying health and wellness. The industry is lacking the honest experience and grit required to overcome the struggle, and we're here to fill that gap.
You decide what works for your daily life and how to transform our lessons into your gold. Join us on the fearless pursuit of self-discovery and growth.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
A Gold Ivy production.
Hello, hello. Welcome back. You are listening to Ivy Unleashed. How we doing?
Whew, good.
Good. As always, we are so grateful that you are tuning in. And if you're here in Minnesota, hanging out in negative 15-degree weather, we hear you, we see you. We're right there with you.
Yes. And if you're not in Minnesota and you are in La Vista, Nebraska, I just need to say, I don't know who lives in La Vista, Nebraska, but there are a lot of you that are listening to Ivy Unleashed, and I'm loving it.
We love you.
Yes.
Shout out.
Thanks
shout
for
out,
the
shout
love.
out.
Thanks for listening.
Yes, and you're listening to so much of them. So we would love for you to reach out and let us know what you're loving, what's speaking to you. So
And not just La Vista, maybe everyone, let us know.
Yeah, we've been putting on our socials lately. You know, we want to know what you guys want to hear. So we've been doing a lot of polls. We've gotten some really good feedback. We booked a few guests this morning based on that feedback, which is really, really exciting. So again, we hear you, we see you, and we're listening. So don't be shy. Reach out. We're doing this for you guys. We want to know what's relevant to you and what you'd like to hear. So don't be shy.
I do have to say one more thing. I've had some concerns about me not washing my face. I just need to say that when I shower, which now every day because I'm running, I wash my face. It's my nighttime routine that I'm working on, and I'm getting better. Thank you, Beauty Counter.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've been getting so many comments that we're actually bringing in a Beauty Counter consultant to walk us through. So
She's like, let me help you, girl.
let me help you, please.
I'll take it. I will take it.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be fun. We got some more on the beauty side of things coming up, which I'm really excited about. Some skincare, some beauty. We got a model coming on the show.
Oh, my gosh.
So exciting. Yeah.
A pageant girl, too.
Ooh.
Well, I don't know if she want me to call her that. She's a doctor and a pageant girl.
She can do it all, baby.
Yes.
Yes.
Love it.
Oh, so great. Well, we are loving that you guys are reaching out to us because it is holding us accountable in what we say we're going to do, which is exactly what we're talking to you guys about today. So you asked for it. We're giving it to you. We're talking about how do we get accountability? How do we ask for help when it's really hard? And not only ask for it, but help ourselves. We're going to talk about all different aspects of accountability today. We're going to talk about what accountability is, why it's so important, why some call it the cheat code to self-development.
The cheat code?
The cheat code. The Arm of Charm podcast calls it the cheat code. So we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about what it looks like from the self, what it looks like from the social aspect. We're diving into it all.
Yeah, and I like to call accountability to myself. I think of it as taking responsibility for the route of your life. So you're thinking about what actions I'm going to take, and accountability is like added on to that. It's like the responsibility of like doing what you said you're going to do, you know, and that's tough. That's super hard. And something I want to say too, before we even fully dive in, is we all know that person that sucks at accountability. So let's just take a second, think about that person that never takes accountability for what they say or do.
Why are you looking at me? I'm just kidding.
They don't take accountability for their wrongdoings. We're going to think about them for a second, and we're going to let it go, because this episode is for you. This is about taking your own responsibility for your life. It is about accountability for you, and it's maddening to think about those other people. I get it. Let's give them a thought. Let's acknowledge that they're bad at it, and let's focus on you.
Because ultimately, the only person that we can control is ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. And that's such a good point. And a quote that I heard the other day, we actually shared it on Instagram because it's super powerful. If you don't follow the holistic psychologist, I totally recommend following her. She just wrote a book too.
I was just going to say, I'm so excited for her book.
Yeah. Her name is Dr. Nicole LaPera, and she's incredible. And her quote on accountability really spoke to me because it's so common to think about other people not being accountable, especially when you're taking accountability and you see that other people
It's frustrating.
It is frustrating. So her quote is, Adults cannot hold another adult accountable. Accountability is an internal process. We cannot get someone to change or make someone see anything they're not ready and willing to see. As frustrating as that may be to hear, she's right. Like, you can't truly make a person accountable for anything because it comes from within.
You can't control anyone but yourself.
Right. And it's frustrating. That's hard. And I just want everybody to turn back inward. Let's let go of whoever we're thinking of when we think about not owning accountability or not taking responsibility. And let's just live from a place where we hold ourselves accountable. We want a big, abundant life. We have dreams that we want to meet. And I feel like if you take that extra step past setting goals to truly being accountable, truly taking responsibility for your life, that's the game changer.
Yeah, Nathaniel Brandon says, if I am unwilling to take responsibility for the attainment of my desires, they are not really desires. They are merely daydreams. So it's owning your actions. And I think a good way to start is if you fail at a commitment that you said you're going to make, promise that you made yourself and it didn't happen, what you need to do is write it down, write why it didn't happen and what you're going to do differently next time, and move on. Because we're human. Mistakes are going to happen. We're not going to follow through on everything we say. But the more that we own it and take responsibility, the more control we feel like we have. And moving forward, we're going to think before we make these promises. Is this something that I can actually keep? Is this something that I truly want? Mm-hmm. And the more we do that, the more intentional we become with our actions. They align more with what we truly want, which in return fills our cup up. And we're going to keep knocking these goals out because it's true to us and we know that we have the ability to achieve them. Okay, so how do you take responsibility?
I think it starts from within and how you talk to yourself. I mean, there's so many ways to take accountability and we're going to get into them, but I do feel like it starts with, in my mind, what am I saying? Am I making up an excuse in my mind? Or am I saying, I did not meet that goal? I told someone I would be somewhere and I was not.
Yeah.
I said I was going to do something and I didn't do it. I think it's first practicing saying it in your own mind before you say it out loud, before you write it down, before you do anything.
Yeah. And not blaming others and taking ownership of, hey, this falls on me. And the more you do that, the more likely you're going to keep the promises you make to yourself and you're going to think about them before you make them, before you agree. We all have those people who are really great at accountability. We have the people who aren't, and we have the people who are. So what are they doing differently, right? And I think it comes with pausing. And my boyfriend this morning, he said, accountability comes from pausing and not rushing into saying yes, not being the yes man. And when we pause and say, okay, is this something I can really commit to? Can I do it? Do I really want to do it? Before saying yes, you're going to be more intentional with your yeses. In return, you're going to keep your word. And I think that's what makes someone an accountable person, right? Someone that you can count on. And who doesn't want to be that person?
Yeah, I want to be that person. I think the first thing you do is align with your values and the goals that you want. So when you're thinking about building up accountability, it's what do I even want? What's true to me? What do I really want to embody? And living from that place, starting from there. And then from there, that's how you decide what you're going to do. You have to know what you want.
Right.
And so it's tuning in. And so for me, it's thinking of goals in different areas of my life. It's food, it's exercise, it's sleep, and it's everything else. Different categories of what do I want that to look like and what can I follow through with? And exactly like you said, do I even want to do this and why? And then can I follow through?
Right. Like going to a friend's house. Do I really want to do this or do I want to get a good night's sleep? Because if you say yes right away and ultimately it's 7:15 and you're supposed to head out the door and you're like, shit, I don't want to do that. Well, you're going to wish that you would have taken some time before you agreed to do it. Because now you're thinking about how badly you don't want to go.
Yeah. And the hurt of saying to someone, I'm just really tired. Can we do this another night? Compared to flaking out and then being the flaky friend.
Right.
Sucks. You'd rather just take that pause and recognize that, why didn't I just think for a minute about this before I responded, wanting to people please?
Right.
You know, I think that's a lot of people's issues is they want to have that impulsive pleasing moment. You know, you ask me a question, of course I can. You know, like who doesn't want to give them the satisfaction instantly?
Right.
But in the end, it's the follow through that's the most important. You know, it really is. It's showing up. It's doing what you're saying you're going to do. It's owning your mistakes. And I think that's a huge part of accountability that I really think that can help practice this skill is thinking about little moments throughout your day where you messed up. Or even just like your tone. Like I'll say something to Justin or he'll say something to me and we'll be like, really? Can you check that tone and say that again? Let's try again. You know, and it's like in that moment, instead of getting defensive saying, you're right, I'll try that again.
Yeah.
And it's just like those little, like practicing owning those little tiny things you do make it a lot easier when it gets to the bigger stuff that you're really shameful about that you made when you made a mistake or you were really rude or you said something super hurtful or you totally forgot something. And we're all human beings. That's going to happen. I think just getting used to that, like owning it, like I am so sorry. I didn't even think about it. You know, I'm so sorry. I will do better. And this is why I'll do better because it's important because of this.
And what's nice about owning it, which I have learned, is they don't have anything to come back with because you're saying, yeah, I was wrong. And as hard as it is to put your guard down and say, I'm sorry, I messed up. Well, it's going to be a lot easier because then you can move on. You don't have to dwell about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And what I love about this approach is you can do it with any area of your life that you want to improve, whether it's setting health goals, you want to run a marathon, you want to work on journaling, you want to work on getting up early, you want to work on building your self-confidence, whatever it be. It's starting small and just acknowledging and reflecting on these tiny things that you're doing throughout the day. Are you keeping the promises that you're making to yourself? So once you do that, next step is what?
I think the next step is that as you practice, it's going to get harder to follow through with things because those little things are getting easier. And then you're going to want bigger, loftier goals. I mean, it happens with everyone. Think of like big entrepreneurs. Like they had these tiny goals at first.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I can do this. I can do more. Like I even noticed it with our podcast. I'm like, oh, I have so much more confidence with like editing and putting stuff up on YouTube. Like I didn't even think I could do that a year ago.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, I've showed myself these little steps that I can do this. I can build up these goals. And then you set bigger goals that sometimes need a little extra reinforcement for accountability, like how to level it up and how to keep following through with these bigger goals because it's harder.
Well, yeah, and not only the bigger of the goals that you have, but the more responsibility you have as you're growing in your career or becoming a mom or whatever it be, you have more responsibility. You have more people looking up to you, which in return is more accountability.
Totally.
You got way more pressure on you.
Yeah. So you need things that can help you out. And I think that everybody works differently. Everybody is so different on accountability. Like there's different personality types, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the type of person, I do not like being told what to do. Don't tell me what to do. I do not like it. Like Justin will find ways to say things to me, suggesting things really carefully because he knows that I will do the opposite if you tell me what to do. But there's other people, like even my coach Kara has said, she is the opposite. She will not do something unless if she has accountability for it.
Right.
So she says like, as much as, you know, I'm an adult and I make really responsible decisions, I make even better decisions when I ask someone to hold me accountable. So I think sometimes it's annoying to certain people if you like post your goals on Facebook or you post your goals on Instagram.
But what works for you? Stop giving a damn about what other people think.
And unfollow them if you don't like that they're posting their goals because that works for people.
Yeah. So for those people who need the accountability, know this. We have had accountability from others from the minute we were born. We had our parents telling us what to eat, when to go to bed, when to shower, to keep us healthy, to keep us alive.
Yep.
So there is absolutely nothing wrong with needing a little bit of accountability. As we grow up, I think, like you're saying, we like the resistance. We don't like to be told what to do. But then life gets hard. We're juggling a lot. And sometimes it's easier to just say, to have someone to check in on you and be like, hey, how's that going? Did you do that? And you're like, oh yeah, light bulb. shit, they're not saying it to make me feel bad. They're saying it because they love me and care about me. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
And I think you can seek out certain people for that. I think you need to be really careful who your accountability people are. You need to really evaluate, like, what kind of love do I need? Like, for me, it's my friends Britt and Megan. Like, I know they'll call me out. They're like real chicks. They're like they're not afraid to hurt my feelings. And I don't want to be annoying and tell them something that I want to work on and then come back and they're like, you said that 2 months ago. Like, you didn't do that? Like, it's not even that hard of a thing. You know?
So let me ask you this. Why do we not want to let other people down, but we're okay with letting ourselves down? Like, it's scarier for us to be like, oh shit, they're going to ask me about it.
I think it's because you think about, you have your thoughts in your head and no one really knows them.
Yeah.
You know, unless if you believe in God and then that's there. But which also I think is a part of accountability is praying for what you want or praying for what you want to make or asking for help or accountability with the higher being that you believe in. I think that can be a powerful thing too. So I think it's kind of getting strategic with who am I going to place in my path as my accountability people or things. And I just think there's so much value in your friendship and how you work that out with someone. Like if you have a really strong friendship, I think you can do that for each other in a really careful way.
Yeah.
Or really easy way even. Like I've mentioned before, my sister-in-law, Alicia, I'll just tell her, text me when you wash your face as a reminder for me to wash mine. So she literally sends me a check mark with a spa face. It gets the easiest form of accountability. Nobody's feelings are getting hurt. I'm getting better at washing my face.
Yeah.
And it's just like little things you can do with the people in your life.
And if you don't like the way that they're holding you accountable, just tell them. Say, hey, it would work better for me if you held me accountable in this way. Because ultimately it's not going to work for you if it's not speaking to you, because if you're going to get defensive over it, it's not going to work. And it's also, I think, putting it just simply into the universe. By putting it into the universe, you're showing the universe that you're committing to this. And Thomas Monson has a quote. He says, when performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. So measure it, track it, and also report it. Tell someone about it. Studies show that when you share your goals with others, you are twice as likely to achieve them than if you keep your goals for yourself. So by simply just telling someone about it, you're putting it into the universe and you're committing to it.
Yeah. And I think there's different ways of doing this. So it's kind of vague to say like, what are you working on and be held accountable? I think like sometimes it's exercise goals. Yeah, you can measure that. You know how far you ran. You know what you lifted. You can write that down. But I also think there's life skills. Like I want to get better at learning about business. So ask me what book I'm reading next week because I want to be reading a new one because I want to be done with this one. And then I think there's a level of I want to get better at being a compassionate human being by doing this. Or I want to really work on my relationship with this person by doing this.
Getting specific.
Yes. And so I think sometimes you have these people in your life that are like your personal trainer or your coach that you get these measurements and you say, I'm going to run 3 times a week for at least 15 miles total. That's different from hiring a therapist that can not only ask you about it, but that can explore that to really help you level up. So I just think it's important, and I can't say this enough, to be strategic about who is in your life to hold you accountable. And I think too, as you're doing this, and as you're starting to pick those people or do these things that hold you accountable, is to notice the changes. Like, I think sometimes we don't see the progress in our life because we're so forward thinking of what I should do next or what I didn't do, thinking in the past, instead of being in the moment and thinking about, wow, I'm getting really good at apologizing, or I'm getting really good at following through and meeting these goals of the mileage that I'm trying to meet. You know, I think we need to give ourselves credit along the way because accountability work is hard and it's in your face. Sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it's great. But I think along the way, as you're holding yourself accountable for things, it can feel like a lot of heavy work.
Yeah. And it's not going to happen overnight. So as important as it is to find accountability that works for you, what's going to hold yourself accountable, who's going to help hold you accountable, it's also important to note that it's not going to be easy and it's not going to happen overnight. So give yourself credit, grace, and be patient. Know that you are doing the work, and that alone is something to celebrate.
Yeah. And I think with setting goals and holding yourself accountable to those goals or working on owning things in your life, that it's this cycle. So it's not like you start and you're done. It's like in life, I think it's really important to just think about, I'm constantly working on something. And so if it doesn't work, it's fine. I'm going to realign. I'm going to reassess. I'm going to think about why it didn't work, and I'm going to try again. Or I'm going to pivot and I'm going to focus on something else. Instead of beating myself up about what I'm not doing, it's like, just realign a little bit. Let's try this a different way maybe, or let's just try again. And if your process of holding yourself accountable feels like I'm beating myself up a lot, I think there's different ways to work around that too.
Yeah. It's important to note that no matter what the process looks like, it's your process. There isn't one way to do it. But as you keep building these little things to help you align and to help you keep the promises that you're making to yourself, you're ultimately building momentum that's going to accelerate you forward.
Also, I think when you're finding your most effective route for accountability, sometimes people suck. And like, you just can't rely on people. I think, and that's tough. Like, I feel like to put that on your spouse all the time, or to put that on your friends, like, I love you, friends, and thank you so much. But sometimes it's like, you know what? I need to find a different route that's me, and maybe it's just something external that's not a human being.
You know what you can count on that isn't a human being?
What? Big magic. That's accountability right there.
The greatest accountability to come out of 2020. Tells me how much I'm drinking, every hour that I need to be drinking, how much.
If you're not watching on YouTube, Big Magic, the big water bottle, is out and about.
Because here's the thing. No one's going to hold me accountable to drinking water. Like,
and that's annoying.
I don't text me halfway through the day.
I don't talk to you about it. Yeah.
Right.
Ugh.
Like, it's an annoying goal that I just have for myself. But it shows you that if you are serious about it, there is something you can do.
It's so true. So yeah, it's finding things that don't rely on other people. Everyone has different moods and different energy, and it can actually really negatively impact your goals sometimes, where people are just sick of hearing about you not meeting your goal. Like, shut up and do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think there's a healthy balance between holding yourself accountable, figuring out ways that you can do that on your own, like getting a Big Magic or a planner or an app. But then there's also people that you can have in your life for those big lofty goals, or things that you're like, you know what? I'm not really sure what my next step should be.
Yeah.
And maybe
I think you should pay those people. Like, I think
yes.
putting that on your friends is what I'm saying.
Right.
Is like Justin wants to hear my goals, of course. Like, he loves me, but he doesn't want to like hear about how I sucked today at it and like evaluate with me and dive into all my feelings. He's got enough on his plate, you know, like, yeah, we talk about it, but that's where you have a coach or a therapist, or you find free resources. There's so many of them. There's so many apps, like, you know, like my Bible app has streaks on it. Like, I don't want to ruin my streak. It's like an external, easy accountability buddy of, this is something I want to do. It's important for me to connect with God and my faith. Yep. And this app helps me do that.
Same thing with Insight Timer. Right now I'm on day 12 streak of meditation. And once I log in and it's 0 and I missed a day, I'm like, oh my God. Like, so then I do one day and I'm like, oh yes, I look forward to doing it tomorrow so that I can increase that streak and build a day and build it back up.
Yeah, and it's like with my journal, I have the Fearless Pursuit journal, and I love filling it up, and it looks so neat with, like, I put my day, I put my exercise underneath there, and then I put my 3 things I'm grateful for, and I don't want to stop doing that. I don't want to look back and be like, oh, that one day in February, why didn't I figure it out? Because every other day I figured it out. And so I think there's, you know, find ways that you get motivated. Like, are you a visual person? Are you an auditory person? Do you want to hear things? Do you need a reminder? Do you need to have a visual check off so that you do something with your hand, or so that you see that it's checked off?
Do you need a daily affirmation that's going to get you into feeling like a badass? What do you need?
How do you work? And it's tuning into that. It's not only tuning into what you want to do, but what's going to remind you and like not annoy you, because some things are annoying. I don't like alarms. Like, don't set alarms on my phone. Like, I hate it. I hate that. But I love, like, when it's my idea to check in, you know, like I already said, I don't like being told what to do.
See,
don't remind me.
I'm the complete other way. I just started doing the Pomodoro method, which is
what?
Pomodoro. We'll note it in the notes.
Okay.
Show notes. It's the method, and it's a focus method. So it's working 25 minutes on, 5-minute break.
Ooh.
And so I'll say, hey, Alexa, set a timer for 25 minutes. She's probably going to set a timer right now and go off in the back. And then 25 minutes will go up, and then I'll say, okay, set an alarm for 5 minutes. I'll do something, take a break. And it switches my brain, and it keeps me accountable during that 25 minutes to not focus on any other task but what I'm doing, not multitask.
That's brilliant.
And I love it. But that is the opposite of what you're saying. Like, I like being told what to do. I love alarms. We all know that I love alarms. I'm getting better. I'm not setting them every minute. But I found that that's what works for me. And I mean, I feel like I try something new every week, but it's okay because I'm learning what works for me and what doesn't. And I'm giving myself patience that it's going to take time to figure out what works for me. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. This makes me think of how you work versus how I work. And I think that that's important to acknowledge. And there is Gretchen Rubin's 4 Tendencies quiz, which goes through, it's like a big questionnaire on your personality type. And it basically talks about how you are with accountability. Do you like being told what to do? Or do you like reminders? Or do you like someone checking in? Or do you like someone giving you the task? Like we all, someone's either a manager or they're not, or someone hates their manager or they don't. Cause it's like, if you hate being told what to do, you might hate every manager on the planet. So you just need to be a CEO. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Be your own boss.
Right. And so that's really important with accountability to kind of think about how can I stop being a victim of things not working out? And how can I own it and be in charge of it instead? How can I learn about how I work, what makes me tick, and how I am most likely to follow through with something. Because who doesn't want to be the person that follows through with things? Like you want to say something and you want to do it. It feels so good. It looks good to everybody around you. People know they can count on you. Like, hell yeah, I want to be held accountable. Ask me.
Yeah. Take responsibility. That's all I keep thinking. Because the minute you take responsibility, you have control, you have ownership, and you have all the power you need within you.
Yeah, and I know I just said this about the victim thing, but it reminds me too of thinking of your life. Like people have been handed really shitty cards. People have had a really tough life. And I think sometimes it's easy to take those terrible things that happen to you and then use them as an excuse to not level up your life because you've been through so much that it's like, just give me a break. Just give me a break. And it reminds me of my parents, like both my parents were dealt a really crappy hand with their fathers and the lack of love there. And I feel like they could have totally used that as an excuse to just like be terrible parents and not pour love into their kids. And they decided like, I'm not going to use as an excuse that I was treated poorly by mine. And I'm going to do the opposite.
I'm going to stop the cycle.
Right. And you can do that with anything. It's like you can have this terrible work situation and then not want to work, or you can find a new job, or you can become your own boss, and I think easier said than done. I think there's just this level of confidence in knowing I can do things and I can step outside of this old me, hold myself accountable to new expectations of myself. And it, like you said, it looks different for everyone, but I think it's really figuring out how you work and what am I going to use to kind of start this process? Am I going to be writing it down? Am I going to be talking with someone? Am I just going to talk in my head? I do a pretty good job myself of thinking about, I want to follow through with me because I'm in charge of my life. I am responsible for me and I can make awesome shit happen. And if I own it, it empowers me and I want to do more.
Yeah. And it's important too, whatever your situation is, right? We all have hardships. We all have shit going on. But one thing I ask myself is, what can I control? When I'm in a moment where I'm like, I feel so overwhelmed, so out of control, my brain is spiraling, I'm thinking of all the negativity, which then breeds excuses, and I take a minute and I'm like, okay, what is my truth? What's actually going on? And what do I have control over? Because you might not be in the position that you want to be, but there's always something you can do in the seat that you're in, right? And so I think not only do you need to take a pause, but you need to know that your excuses are just holding you back. The energy that you're wasting creating these excuses, blaming other people, you could be putting into bettering yourself and creating a life that you want and that you love.
And that can start really, really small.
Yeah.
Really small.
All that you have to do is start.
Something that comes to mind too is just using the internet. Free resources. There are support groups for everything under the sun. To hold you accountable, to encourage you. It's all out there.
So you can reach out to support groups, apps, anyone people love to help. There are accountability groups out there, people that can support you. But ultimately, what we want you to walk away from today is knowing that it starts, like everything else, from within.
Do you truly want to take responsibility for your life?
I feel like I have to, the way you're looking at me.
I mean, own it. Challenge yourself to own your life. Follow through. Be the person that follows through. Be the person that makes a commitment and does it. And be the person that's honest when they know that they can't follow through. I mean, that is also having accountability for yourself, is owning when you can't commit to something and you admit it. You apologize when you do something wrong. And I think just slowly you can build up that skill of accountability, and it can really, truly be a game changer.
Own your shit. Own your life.
Be fully accountable and use it as a tool for growth and success.
Absolutely. All right, well, before we jump into our 3 gold stars, don't forget to hit subscribe, share Ivy Unleashed with anyone looking to up-level their life, and reach out if you have any questions, any topics you'd like us to cover. We are here for you. And don't forget to join the Ivy League for exclusive tips and for our weekly newsletter.
Yeah. All right, now it's time for our 3 gold stars.
Number 1, determine a route for accountability that's personally effective for you.
2, write down 3 goals you have for the next month and a daily habit that can support each of them.
And number 3, practice owning a mistake or apologizing this week, even when it's uncomfortable. Next up, unleashing Ivy.
All right, Brooke, what's one thing you say to yourself when you're working on accountability?
Shit. And that's me owning it.
Yeah.
So first it's a shit. And then, like I said earlier, writing it down, what didn't work and what I'm going to do better next time. And if I don't write it down, at least think it. Mm-hmm. Take ownership of it, acknowledge it, and move forward. Because we're human. We make mistakes, leave it in the past, and move on.
Yeah.
Shit happens. All right, Dre. When you're really struggling after making a mistake, what's one thing that steers you in a positive direction?
I'm making faces at Brooke and making her laugh. Okay. When I'm really struggling after making a mistake, I just tell myself to stop, because I keep saying the same things over, like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Oh, why didn't you think of that? So I sometimes even say stop out loud. And I think, what can I learn from this and how will it make me stronger? So whether it's like a better mom or better friend or better whatever, when we make mistakes, that's what propels us forward, and we learn from things. I mean, things aren't always going to be perfect. So when you make a mistake, like, not only is there power in owning it and being accountable, but also learning from it and growing from it.
Yeah. And telling yourself, what happened, happened. There's nothing I can change.
Yep.
How can I move forward?
All right. And Brooke, what's one thing you wish you would have known sooner about accountability?
You can't control anyone but you. And for our last segment today, your piece of gold.
This week's piece of gold comes from Jen Sincero. Nobody achieves great success without walking through the fire. This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.